And I love one quote that I think about all the time. The world isn't made up of matter. It's made up of what matters. And so when I think about that's my big why.
Really good quote.
And so that's my big why.
Welcome back to the Journey Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Dillon.
I'm Abigail.
And I'm Adam, filling in for Tyler today.
That's right. And we are talking all about priorities today.
Your life, your journey starts now.
So, question. What is the biggest priority in your guys' life?
I know my priorities this summer haven't been as aligned as they should have been. Something that I am currently struggling with. I struggle a lot with finding the right motivation to do things. And a lot of my motivation this last summer, and I wasn't as productive as I would have liked to have been. You know, normally it's a save up for whether it be, like in my instance, I bought a car, also have college payments. So my goal was to save up a little bit of money. And if I'm being as honest as I can be, I didn't reach the mark I would have liked to, because I prioritized comfort. And so I wouldn't get as much done in the day because as soon as I would get tired, I would shut myself down and I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to push past this. Comfortable. I'm going to go grab a bite to eat. I'm going to go, I'm going to go sit on the couch and doom scroll my TikTok or Instagram, you know? So that was a bigger part of my summer than I would have liked to. And so that was in kind of like a implicit motivation to find comfort, because I was in a position where I felt like I was stressed out, you know? So that was a motivation that was a lot bigger part of my life than I anticipated this summer.
I was thinking you have to actually want it to achieve it. And so even with myself, I found out this summer, I always like to focus on like health. Like that's very important to me, like maintaining my health. So in the future I have energy and I'm able to achieve the things I want to. And I figured out this summer that I actually wasn't eating as clean as I'd like to. And I'm the type of person, like, if I want something, like, and I put my mind to it, I will achieve it. Like, that's just the type of person I am. And I kept hitting, like, roadblocks. Like, why am I going out to eat with friends and just eating whatever I want? Like, that's not my philosophy. And I was like, then I had to really deeply think about it. Like, why am I not achieving what I want to? And I realized I actually didn't want it. I had this like social pressure on me, like I see on social media, like eat this and like do this right and da-da-da. And it's hard to not intake that information and try not to follow it. Like that's what I'm being influenced to do. And I realized after thinking about it, I was like, I want to spend like quality time having fun with my friends more than I want to eat like clean right now. I didn't actually want what I thought I wanted. And so I think that there's a quote, Stephen Covey, he said, the key is not to prioritize your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. And so you have to actually figure out what are your priorities? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to achieve in the long run? And that's something that you don't just figure out by sitting down for 5 minutes and like thinking about it. It's constantly reminding yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? I remember I went to a camp this past summer, and we had to write down on a note card a word, and the word was like a word that we wanted to remember the next year. And I wrote down the word intention because I want to be intentional about every little thing that I do, so I'm achieving my goals and what I really am passionate about. And I think that's really important. The only way you're going to figure this out if you sit down with yourself and constantly, like, I think one of the things that I do is I'm constantly like, I take a few, 30 minutes, like every week where I just like sit down, no phone, like stare at a wall and like figure out what do I actually want to do with my life. And that's something a lot of people don't do. And there's actually been so much research about this where if for 90 minutes you write down the things that you want to accomplish and like you actually think about, do I want this? Is this important to me? It will drastically change the way your life goes in the future.
So if your priorities, though, if they're equally balanced, you can get stuck in a crossroads because if one motivation isn't beating out the other one, then it's like, well, what do? You're kind of stuck in that decision-making process. And I've been there personally, where I'm sitting here and I have 2 different tasks to do. Like, I know school's coming up and I have another semester of college to attend. I'm going to have to balance my work and my school load. And I'm more than certain there will be times where I have a homework assignment due and I have a deliverable for work due. And
Or you also have doom scrolling
exactly
that you could go to.
You know, Instagram calls, TikTok calls. But yeah, or going out with buddies at the end of the day. Maybe there's a baseball game to watch. Hard to turn that down. If
Boring.
Yeah, you definitely have to figure out what is most important to you. Think about the consequences of like every decision that you make, which I think it goes back to, is it a personal priority or is it someone else's? So I think so many times, especially because of social media, we can think that, oh, I actually want this and I want to make that much money and I want to do all this, and it gets too much for your schedule where you cannot fit, all the things that you want to fit into 1 week. And so also figuring out, like, you really, really have to, like, this is why I push, like, sitting down with yourself, like, for even, like, 30 minutes with a blank sheet of paper in front of you, thinking about what do I want to do for the rest of my life. And not even the rest of your life, the next 5 years. What do you want the next 5 years to look like? And so that's something that I continue to do, and my life is very messy, but it's pulling itself together. I'm figuring out, okay, I enjoy this. One of the things that I don't think I'm going to do is go to college. And I've been getting a lot of, like, people say, that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea. I say, wait, the reason why I want that is because I don't feel prepared enough to put like over $100,000 on my life and make a decision about a degree where I don't know if I'm going to use it. For me personally, that's not wise for me. And you might go against the crowd and think and say, like, okay, I'm going to do this, and people are going to be against that. And you just have to do what's right for you and what you think is best for your future. And I think that's so important. Like, you really do need that time by yourself.
I completely agree with you. And there's going to be people who are like, Dillon, why do you agree with that? Because it's like, I'm a master's degree student, and I went through it. But my brother, 2 years older than me, he dropped out of college, and he has a career that he's really happy in, and he didn't have to go to college to get there. The career I'm in, I chose, and I had to go through the degree program in order to get my job. Some jobs are just like that, but you don't have to. And I really respect that you're exploring that, because it's there's so much pressure that's put on to us, as kind of to expand on what you're saying. There's priorities that people put on us that they think that we should prioritize.
Yes.
My biggest thing that I always say to people is, you don't know what you need to know. Like, I don't know who I'm going to be in 5 years, so I don't want to make a big decision like that could radically change my life, and in a wrong way.
Yeah, and holy conviction, because when I was in your shoes, having that dilemma of what I wanted to do for college, there were other people's priorities at play. Right. Yeah. The parents' influence is a huge one. And when I was getting ready to go to college, I had to decide, first off, and while part of me agreed, the parents' influence and the parents' motivation was very much, yes, you gotta go, and we'll help you through it, but you gotta go do it. The motivation was not 100% mine. My parents were very strong in that, and to some degree, maybe that's healthy to have other people providing light motivation,
right? Support, it's huge.
But when I hit a crossroads and really had to look in as to, do I want to do this for a career? Then I was questioning my motivations, and what was revealed to me was that there were other people's motivations at play, because my mom and my dad were both like, of course that's what you want to do. And I'm like,
I'm not so sure
then why
about
am I
that,
having
Mom?
these thoughts?
Right.
And so I'm sitting here, and I'm glad you are taking the time to identify what are your motivations versus what are others, because college is a big decision.
I think the key thing that you're getting at is that desires change, motivations change, priorities change. Sometimes our motivations don't line up with our parents' motivations for us. But I think the thing that I would have loved to hear told to me when I was in high school was your past doesn't determine your future, and you can change the path that you're going. I was like a straight D and C student in high school. I just like did not care. And then I had kind of a pull in the direction of, you know what, I really want to put myself into a career path where I can help people. And I was kind of starting to get the idea that going to college could really help me do that. And so I started to go to the idea of like becoming a pastor and going to seminary. And so I was like, in order to get to seminary and be a pastor, in order to be in that role, I have to change my priorities here. I have to change my motivations. And so my why changed. It was before I had no care about school. Academics were not for me, and I was going to be a carpenter, and I was going to go off and do that. And then I had kind of a heart shift. My heart changed.
It reminds me of that
direction.
quote from Nietzsche: "If you know your why, you can withstand anyhow."
Exactly. Yes. And college was really difficult for me.
Yeah.
I was able to pass. I think I even had like honors, and I was like amazed with myself because that was never me. I didn't care about any of that. I really still don't really care about it. It's just kind of a letter on a piece of paper, but
it shows how like when your motivations change, you did big things that you never thought you'd be able to do.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my why, and the reason I had to look internally as to whether or not I wanted to continue down the road of civil engineering was because my why shifted. Originally, I wasn't a social guy in high school. And so part of my motivation for choosing civil engineering was I hoped that I would just get in office one day and be able to coop up and do my work myself. But that motivation swung 180 degrees by the second year of college. And I'm like, I don't think I could stand doing work by myself. I needed that social aspect. And it got to the point where I was almost like, I want to do something that involves people 90 to 100% of the time. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm stuck to my own, where the only person I'm listening to is myself, because then you're just kind of withering away in your office
in your own little vacuum,
you know, and it's like, but you can't make as big of a difference or as big of an impact. And the why was I really wanted to make a positive difference. And so, but being able to interact with people, that became more important to me than being able to solve a problem.
Yeah, it shows the importance of knowing your why and how that changes your life.
Yeah.
To answer your question earlier, Abigail, you asked when you first started. I never actually
You
answered.
didn't answer.
I never answered. I want your answer too. What was it? What are your priorities? What's your biggest priority in life?
Are you asking me?
No,
or you're
so
answering?
that's
Okay.
the question you asked, right? What's
Yeah, I
my
did.
biggest priority? Right now, it's my family. It's my kids. I mean, when you become a dad, that becomes kind of a obvious, for me at least. It was a very obvious, okay, I have kids I have to take care of. I have to start focusing on what's the best for them. How can I provide best for them in different ways? And a lot of what I do now comes down to how am I best serving them. And so sometimes you have to also sacrifice, like in this case, I have to sacrifice some of my wants and desires because I have to spend more time devoted to my kids rather than my own dreams. And I don't know, at some level, I've accepted that and I'm okay with that. But
because deep down, your desire is greater for your children and your family than yourself, and so you sacrifice your own.
I like to think so.
And initial desires, because that desire deep down weighs much heavier, and that is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it comes down to that. On one hand, I want this. On one hand, I want this. But the hand that wants my kids to succeed is heavier than my own desires. Just like your desire for friendship versus eating healthy. It's like, this is heavier.
Yeah.
But there are situations, and I feel like it's a challenge we have to address, where maybe your motivation isn't quite right. And maybe you want to shift motivations. I don't know if there's anything we can speak on, or you guys have, to try and change that.
No, I think you have a really good point, Adam, because I'm kind of the same place. Like I didn't care about school, and then my senior year comes around, and then I really started my why changed. Yeah. It was I had this realization that I want to make a difference in the world, and I always had, but I hadn't connected it to my academics. So like, I didn't care. My why wasn't strong enough for academics to do good, to apply myself, to learn, to grow. I just didn't, my motivation wasn't there. And then when I started to realize that, in order to truly help people, my why did shift. My why of doing school was like, the why before was really kind of absent. I didn't have a why. Yeah. So I was just doing what I had to do in order to, well, really what my why was, I want to get my parents off my back, so I'm going to turn in my assignments, and I want to get my teachers off my back, and I'm going to do the exact minimum so that I can just get out of high school and move on with my life. And then my why shifted to, you know what, I think I could actually get something out of this, and if I do put work into this, I can better my life. I can put myself into a better position to help people the way I truly want to help them.
I feel like, to maybe answer your question, I feel like every person has a variety of whys. Like, we all have so many
different parts at play.
The older we get and the more experiences we go through, some whys get stronger and some get weaker. And so even like when I'm thinking about like my big why, definitely it grew radically after an experience I had last year where I was an atheist and then I came back to God, and then I figured out, okay, this actually really matters to me. And so now my why, my perspective every day is like, how am I going to grow closer to God? How am I going to grow closer to the people around me? Because I figured out that why mattered so much. And I love one quote that I think about all the time. The world isn't made up of matter. It's made up of what matters. And so when I think about that's my big why.
Really good quote.
And so like, that's my big why. And so I think it goes with like experiences, and we all have so many varieties of whys, and they grow and some of them shrink.
So to attempt to tie a bow on this, getting our priorities in order here is... what it sounds like is the first step is understanding your why. And in order to do that, you have to have a good understanding of yourself. Really taking the time, like Abigail said previously, to block out a lot of that external noise, to try and separate what is a personal priority versus influence from other factors, whether it be social media, whether it be parents, whether it be... teachers and friends, to try and identify what is yours, because you can't act on a why that's not your own.
So one of the best ways to figure out your priorities and your real why is to get together and talk with friends. And Journey Coaching has a really great outlet to do that. We have our coaching workbooks. You can just go out, grab a friend, and have a cup of coffee and sit down and just have a good conversation. You can find more information at journeycoaching.org.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next time and make sure you like and subscribe. Visit us at journeycoaching.org and check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Start your own journey at journeycoaching.org.
Your life, your journey starts now.